All right, we are recording. All right. Thank you all for joining us today for another one of our Darkroom Booth 3 training sessions. Happy to have Clay Moore here with us today. He's going to talk about graphic design and Darkroom Booth and how to effectively use graphics in different elements of Darkroom Booth. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Clay and let him lead the way.
Hey, so I'm Clay Moore. I own Photo Booth Graphics, graphic designer for the past 10 years in the photo booth industry. I have a degree in website design development and internet marketing, and that's where I learned how to do all the graphic stuff. So I do appreciate you having me on here to talk about this. So, all right, let's dig in. So, first thing I wanted to talk to you about was camera aspect ratio, what they are and what they do. So the camera aspect ratio is important in templates because of the photo cutouts there. So a DSLR camera has a native 3:2 ratio. So what the aspect ratio means is the proportion between the width and the height of the cutout, okay, or the canvas. But what we're really interested in is the cutout when it comes to camera aspect ratio. So in photos, it's 1:1, 3:2, and 4:3. Video is 16:9, so that's the 1080 by 1920. Okay, so that's all I have on aspect ratio. Okay. Next thing I wanted to talk about is camera orientation and why is it important. Hold on just a second. I forgot I had a camera in here. Okay. Camera orientation and why is it important? Simple. DSLR cameras are picky. They have pesky little mirrors that are inside the body here. So this guy right here wants to have a 3:2 ratio. So if you can see right inside there, you see a reflection of the mirror. So on your photo cutouts, that needs to be the same exact shape and orientation as this camera is sitting. So this is in portrait. So this is great for mirrors. This is great for this orientation here is good for traditional booths. So this is landscape again. As you can see in there, you have a rectangle that is landscape. So, as you look on my screen here, so do I have a pointer? Yes, I do. Okay, this is what we usually use. It's a 2x6 or a 4x6. But for this example, I'm showing you the 2x6. This is going to be your landscape orientation because that is in a landscape mode. Now this is 4:3 ratio. Here, the only reason why I use 4:3 ratio on my 2x6 is because they're just a little bit bigger than the 3:2. Most of my clients say, oh, I don't like this little small little 3:2 ratio pictures. Can you make them a little bit bigger? So that's the reason why I do them 4:3, just to be a little bit bigger. The camera orientation is landscape. The canvas orientation is portrait. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which way your canvas is set up. It's only matters with your camera, your DSLR camera, when it comes to the photo cutouts. Okay, down here at the bottom, this is a portrait example. So this would be your 6x2. Does anybody have any questions about this before I move forward to the next slide? Nope. Okay. There's a third orientation, believe it or not, universal. So you're going to either use your camera in landscape or portrait if you're using a DSLR. If you're using an iPad or if you're using a webcam, it does not matter when it comes to aspect ratio with this. It can be 1:1, 16:9, 3:2, 4:3, it doesn't matter, that the software is going to tell it what to do. But the universal orientation takes both. So that's the square that you have there. So So a hint is if you are setting up your DSLR camera to shoot, you're going to want to put the landscape so let's say this is I'm the focal point here. You're going to have your right and your left cut off, and you're going to have right in the center, and you're going to have your template where it's going to be the whole entire photo is going to go across here. So you're going to be cutting off with your overlay on your left and your right. If you're going to use a portrait, then what you're going to do with that is either cut off the bottom third or the top third and push your camera down to where it actually points on that subject. So that way you're not losing any of your main subject. So that's all about camera orientation, and that's all about making sure that you are not cutting yourself off in the template. Okay, next thing I want to talk about, this is darkroom related. This is called XBDR. What is an XBDR? It is the X drive where it's located, booth, darkroom. That's the file type. This is Darkroom's proprietary file type. XBDR holds and embeds event information, video, and graphics into one little tiny package. The biggest problem I have whenever I send off to a customer an XBDR file, or they download it from darkroomtemplates.com or from one of the third parties, is that they think they can double click on the XBDR and it'll automatically put it in the place in Darkroom. That's not the case. So when I send that to you or you download it or something like that, you're going to have to open up Darkroom, go into the proper place. So if you have a screen, you go into screens, hit add, and then import it in. Or you would go into the output, then the template library, if you will, or the catalog, whatever they call it, and click on add and then import it that way. The other way is to go in the back end, go into the X drive, booth templates, and drop it in to where the folder it needs to be in. So that is what the XBDR is. Okay, so I wanted to explain to y'all what that meant and what it did. Okay. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about was color modes. So RGB and CMYK, those are color modes that we use in graphic design. So when you're looking up color codes, if you will, on Google, you're going to look up RGB charts or CMYK charts or hex codes. So hex codes usually work very well with RGB in devices and whatnot. So PNGs are normally saved in RGB, which means red, green, and blue. And then the JPEG backgrounds are usually cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which also means black. So with printers, they're natively CMYK. So really it's best to use a background.jpg with a CMYK color mode and then have an overlay with an RGB mode. It's two different files. Yes, that's true, but you can get away with, as long as your screen is calibrated correctly, to be a PNG or RGB overlay, and you won't have to worry about it. Any questions about that one?
Yes, I have a question, Clay.
Go ahead.
So you may address this later, and if you're going to address this later, you can just hold the question till then. But as you and I discussed earlier, I do all of my photo strip designs in Photoshop.
Correct.
So when I'm doing my photo strip designs in Photoshop, I would be best served, based on what you're saying here, I believe, to be doing them as CMYK instead of Adobe RGB color Is that correct?
Well, to an
That's
extent,
match the output of the printer?
yeah. So I mean, to an extent, you can. So the printers are CMYK mode, if you will. So the ribbon that comes out, that is CMYK. Um, there is a thing called Pantone color that actually matches the CMYK and the RGB, and you can find that code to make it to where it works seamlessly together. Um, so the question is it 100% needed to be a background.jpg? No, it's not necessarily needed to be. But the easiest way would be to do that's a better way to say it. The easiest way would be to do the background.jpg as a CM.
Right. I guess my question is, are you going to have more true color match output on your printed photo strips if your photo strip design is done in CMYK mode instead of RGB mode?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. That is true.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, that is true. Any other questions?
There are none in the chat at the moment.
Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So this is a very big question I saw on the Darkroom group. And also I talked to Wally about this as well. I asked him what was one of the things that he gets daily on the support. And that is, why doesn't my template match my screen? Why can't I see when I take that picture, why is some of the things cut off here? Why are things squished up? Why are things stretched out? And you know what, that's on the wrong, there I copied it incorrectly. So the reason why is because your aspect ratio does not match on your screen and your template. So I'll edit this and I'll send this out here. So I'm going to, at the end of this, I'm going to show you a fail-proof way to go into Photoshop and match your aspect ratio for your template to your screen. And the reason why, like I said, it's because you're not matching your aspect ratio of your cutouts to your screen aspect ratio for your live view. Okay, let's see. Let me go back and look and see what's going on here. Okay, so there's another point to this one too. That's the reason why this is up here. Okay, so the colors don't match on your print to your screen. Okay, so out of the box, most monitors are set far too bright for correct color and density judgment. Okay, so being the same colors. It's best to calibrate using a tool that you can find on Google or somewhere online to monitor, to calibrate your monitor to match the printer output. So if you look at a monitor, it's just a projected light. It's nothing different than having a lamp in your face, if you will. Prints, they reflect the color from the monitor if it's calibrated correctly, and it's dried ink. So if you look at a paint can, the paint can is basically your monitor, if you think about it that way. It's glossy, it's wet, it's shiny, but as soon as you put it on the wall, it's going to become dry in a different color. So it's not going to match exactly the same every single time. It'll be close. It's just like painting your walls. So just think about that whenever you're designing or you're having a designer. Make sure that they know that the color is going to be just a little bit different when it prints. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. So so this is how we figure out how to how to size our template, how we're going to get the exact canvas size. So the math behind the pixels, how do I find the sizes of pixels? It's inch times the resolution equals the pixel count. Okay, so if you need a 2-inch print, Darkroom's native DPI count, or dots per inch or pixels per inch, the resolution is 300 DPI. So it's 2 times 300 equals 600. And then if you need the 6, then it's 6 times 300 is 1800. And that's how we get this 600 by 1800 2 by 6. 4 by 6 is 1200 by 1800. 5 by 7 is 1500 by 2100. So on and so on and so on. The only time that you don't have to really worry about the 300 number is if you're using GIF, Boomerang, or video. Those can be 72 or 96 DPI because they're going on a device. Okay. So it's going on a device. You don't have to worry about that. So for print purposes, it's inch times 300 in Darkroom. Inch times 300 equals your pixel count. Now, if you're using a different software, and I won't say the names of different softwares right now, but you may have to use something else like a 1240 by 1844, and you'll have to look at what the printer says that the resolution is for that printer to be able to get the correct size. And they should have a sizing chart for you available for that. So that's the math of being able to get your canvas size to move on to making your beautiful template.
Clay,
Yes.
a couple questions here.
Answer.
When you're talking about getting the correct canvas size, you're talking about when you're designing a template in Darkroom Booth?
In Photoshop. So, or let me look at this real quick. Okay, so in Darkroom, if you go to let me go into this. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a brand new template here. So we'll just call this Darkroom template. So I've got a brand new template up. I'm coming to page settings and page size. I can make it custom, and I can use that math that I just gave you to give the size that you need.
Yep.
Or you can do a drop down in Darkroom, and they already have a preset for you.
Right.
So, but if you're using it if you're wanting to do this in Photoshop first and then move into Darkroom, you would need to know this pixel count.
So I guess that's the second part of my question is, why is it actually important to know the pixel counts when in Photoshop or in Darkroom, and I don't know about other editors per se, but I can set in, because I do all mine in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I can just make a 2-inch by 6-inch canvas. So like I can make a 2-inch by 6-inch canvas in Darkroom Booth to create my template from. So, and I'm just asking for my edification and others' edification. So if you can set the canvas in Photoshop, or you can set the canvas in Darkroom Booth to 2 by 6, what's the most important reason to know how to transfer those inches to pixels?
The most important reason is if you're in Photoshop, so this is Photoshop here, that right here in the new document, if you're in pixels, which that's what I have mine set for natively, you can come down to inches if you want to and type in that, but knowing the width times the height and then knowing your resolution in here,
Yep.
that will give you, so width, height, resolution, that will give you a 2 by 6 there. So that's if you have this set to pixels.
Right. Okay.
If you have this set to inches, you could put 2 by 6.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I just wanted to know if there was some other overriding reason, beneficial reason to know. So I just wanted to clarify for myself and maybe others who might be thinking the same thing.
Right, right.
Thank you.
And Jason just said that would be fine as long as you know your DPI and have it set to 300. That's true.
Yes.
Yes, that's if you have it by pixel count.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, Larry. Yes, everything on my website is set to be ready for Darkroom or the newer softwares, if you will. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm clicking the wrong buttons. Okay, where were we? Slide. Okay, fonts. This is something that Bill and I talked about earlier too. So fonts. Fonts are installed on your Windows-based machine or your Mac machine if you're designing in Photoshop. Windows is only for Darkroom. There are Darkrooms only for Windows. So you need to install your fonts first and have a good amount of fonts. So my favorite places to find fonts will be Font Squirrel and DeFonts. Now you have to be very careful when you're in there because you have to look for the commercial free, or you're going to have to pay to be able to use those specific fonts to be commercially used. So you are selling these templates when you make them for other people. So that is part of your package deal. So if you're doing something for yourself for personal use, for your own birthday party or your own whatever you're doing, that's something for you that you can use it for personal use. For the commercial use, again, you have to pay attention to if the author allows you to use it. Down here at the bottom, I do have a link to my blog where it shows you how to install those fonts into Windows. Pretty simple to do. Pretty simple to do. Clip art. Okay. So making your own or purchasing is always the best practice for finding clip art or elements in your design. So using Google Images isn't always legal. Okay, so we've got to read the fine print. So if you look down here at the bottom, it's going to cover that up. But anyways, it says images may be subject to copyright. So that means you may not be able to use that image for your green screen background or use that in your design itself. You just have to click on Learn More and read the fine print to be able to do that. So finding elements, that's what this is all about here. Okay, so this is where I'm going to jump into Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how to edit a third-party template. The third party means outside of Darkroom, somebody buying something for Photoshop and importing it into Darkroom. So I'm going to show you how to bring it into Darkroom itself. All right, so good old Photoshop. And let's see here. So this is a template we all know, we all love right off the Darkroom group. And I've already opened it for you, showing it here. Let's see. So the first thing I'm going to do is I see this copyright here, and I see some sample lines on here, copyright lines. Here, and I'm going to click on the good old eyeball. I'm going to knock that. I'm giving it a good old black eye. I'm going to knock it out. Okay. So what that did is it opened up the canvas and allowed me to see what's going on. Over here on the side, you see there's a T here. That means text. So easily, you can do one or two things. Now in Photoshop, you can either double click right on the words itself, right in the middle of the canvas, or you can come over to the icon and double click, and then you can type in your text and move it on over. So you type in your text, hit enter, or hit the check mark up at the top, hit OK. Next thing is, well, it's not Maddie and Claire's Suite 16, our Maddie Claire Suite 16. It's we'll say it's, we're going to double click there and we're going to say it's Holland Linux. I can spell my own daughter's name. And so, see, I can't get it to work exactly right, so I'm just going to try to spacebar that out just a little bit. Come over to the Move tool and just bring it in. And again, it's not working exactly the way I want to, so you can do a little trick here, and that is going to this space and highlighting it. Well, if it'll take it. Okay, can y'all see my cursor moving?
Yes.
Hold your shift key and highlight that space. And you can actually bring the size of it down some to where that spacing is not too far off. So that's just a little trick. So now it says Holland Linux. She's not 16, so we're going to call it she's going to be 5 this year. We'll make this happy and then birthday. Okay, so that is not, okay, so happy birthday 5. All right, so this sucker's not, or this template is not ready to go yet. This is going to be just, we don't have photo cutouts. This is not cut out yet. So we're going to go to the very bottom here. It says picture placement. We're going to give that guy a black eye where it says picture placement. When you see when you see the checkerboard there, the checkerboard, that is when it's ready to be saved out as a PNG file because you have the cutouts. Okay. So I'm going to hit File, Save As. I'm ready to go. And I'm going to save this as a, so Holland Linux 5. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a PNG file here. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. That went to my desktop. So now I'm going to switch you over. So let's just say that I'm on my design computer, I'm in my office, and I want to go, I don't want to use my Surface Pro over here, and it's in my booth, and I'm just going to turn it on. It's in my garage. I don't really like designing on it, so I'm going to use a little software called AnyDesk. Okay. AnyDesk is like TeamViewer, but it is free. It is free to use, and they don't watch you like a hawk, like the others do. So I'm in AnyDesk now. I have my thumb drive, or I emailed it over to my booth computer. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to start making my template. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just background noise.
Ah, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start making my template here. So I'm going to come up to, I'm going to hit choose. I'm going to start a new template. So we'll call this Holland Linux, and it is a 2x6 because we made it the 600 by 1800. So, whoop. Also got to make sure the orientation is set correctly to vertical if you're going to do 2x6, because that just gave me a 6x2. So I'm showing you how to take that PNG file and add it as your flat template, and then add your photo spots. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come to add artwork. We're going to browse. And I've kind of already did this, but I didn't do it with the editing. So you're going to see it here. I'm gonna hit, bring that right in. Okay, so now we have our template. And Shane, this is how you do your templates too, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So next thing we need to know is how do we get our photo spots in there? So we're going to click on add photo. It's going to give me one photo. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to drag this down just a little bit. And I'm going to take it to the top left-hand corner. And I'm going to drag this and just drag it on out to the edge of the corner, because I had made that 4:3 ratio for the frames there. So the next thing I'm going to do, I don't want to continue to make that happen every single time. So I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to do duplicate. And I'm just going to bring that down and bring it right to the spot it needs to be. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here. I'm going to change this to 2. So I'm double clicking on the photo and changing it to 2. So that way I have the second photo. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the third photo and change that to a 3. So now I have a third-party template from outside of Darkroom using Photoshop, saved as a PNG, added as artwork, then I added in my photo spots. I'm going to hit save. And we want to make sure, now this is trying to put me in the downloads folder. So I'm going to come back into this PC, come down to the X drive, and this needs to be in Booth templates. And we're going to call this All-in Linux 5. Yeah, sorry, yeah, you're right. So what I did was I made sure that this is separate. This is opposite from Photoshop. So the photo spots are actually going to be on the back side, so they're going to be on the top, and then the artwork is actually going to be at the bottom, because the bottom is the top and the top is the bottom.
So, and I have one question too. Wouldn't you still want to make your photos, wouldn't you want to set their size to ensure that they're a 4:3 ratio if your cutout is 4:3 ratio? Because if you don't make the size of the photo 4:3, you risk cutting part of the photo out because the photo extends beyond the cutout.
Well, and so the way that I personally make them is I actually take some of the cutout. So I actually put the framing. Let me get a cursor here. So I take some of the framing off of it. So if out of the cutout. So let's see. Where's my cutout here? All right. So if you see here, there's that line that's here. I'm putting the frame back in. I put just a little bit over. So the edge of this frame here is where that cutout starts. It's not actually on the inside corner.
Okay.
Outside corner. So that's how I personally do it myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I make sure that it's set for 4:3 or 3:2 ratio for you.
Right.
Whenever you're designing a custom design for you, or doing a stock item on the website.
Right.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Now, what I was going to show for making a scratch template straight in Darkroom. I'm going to do something simple because we only have about 8 minutes or so before we get to the question Q&A section. So I'm going to do a quick 4x6, or excuse me, a 6x4. Let's see, 4x6. Okay, and I want that to be horizontal. Okay, because that's how our camera, like I said earlier, that's how the camera ratio is. We're shooting the camera like this, so we want to make sure that our photo is exactly the same way. So horizontal here. So so what I want to do in Darkroom, this is not using any external graphics at all whatsoever. This is just using straight Darkroom. Everything that's included in here. I'm going to add my photo first. And when you do the position and size, like Shane was saying just a minute ago, you have the 0, 0, 1800 by 1200. That is 3:2 ratio. So we're going to keep it exactly the same there. Because we know those numbers are 3:2 ratio. Next, I want to add some names to it, but I want to have a little badge to it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a shape, and I want it to be, let's say, a circle. Okay, and I want that circle to be, we'll just do black. Red, green values are over here at 0, 0, 0. If I wanted it to be white, it would be 255, 255, 255. Now, if you can see that they don't have the CMYK values on here, by the way. So that's where the JPEGs come into play. Okay, so I'm going to make a circle. Set this to 100 on the opacity. I'm going to bring the size up. And I'm going to set it in the corner here like we did what we would do for a watermark. Okay? There's two different ways to add text to this in Darkroom. So you can either do it by adding text as a new layer or a new template item. And so let's see, we'll do the letter M. And I want to make this, now this is the part that I watch because that I like using Photoshop for, because you can't really tell really how big the font is really going to be when you get it onto the canvas size when it comes to Darkroom versus Photoshop or something that can do an external graphic. I'm going to change this to white. And I'm going to drag it on over. Okay, so there's that. Let's say I want to do our wedding date. So that's 3/9/2016. And I'm going to put that right in the bottom here. Now, do you see how I can't just resize it there? That's the reason why I showed you this. So you can't just come in the corner and just resize it like you would do in Photoshop. You would have to actually come in here and resize it over and over again until you're in the right, the right size that you want. So let's say that you want this to be a 10, okay? So you're going to put it right there in the bottom. If you want to add other things, let's say like you want to add a frame into this, you would have to do the shape again. Wally might be able to tell me something different that I don't know about on this part, but let's say you want to use a frame going all the way around. The way that I would do it is
play.
Yes.
Are you trying to frame the photo?
Yes.
Stop what you're doing.
I have not done that yet.
But you're working on it, right?
Yeah. So this is what
double click on the photo.
I would duplicate this. Oh yeah, I know about that part, but adding.
Gotcha. Never mind then.
Yeah. So you're talking about doing the double click on the photo and then come into frame.
Yep.
Draw a frame around. You know what? You're right. You're right. But does that put it on the inside or the outside?
I think it puts it on the outside.
Okay. So that's it. So if this is a full frame situation, this is where you would be doing your framing by manually doing it like this. So bringing it all the way across. So if you just need a quick little frame going around. Let's see. What else was I going to speak about on graphics? Foolproofing. That was the last thing I was going to touch on. So how to foolproof your ratio matching. So the way that I do it personally, because in Darkroom, if you're on your screen editor, I know I'm jumping to the next thing. It's only because we only have a couple of. Is there a way to connect the graphics like the circle and the M? Do you use a Cricut, Sarah? Okay, that's where I thought you were asking that question from. Well, Canva and Cricut do the same. So the other way to do that, so if you have that circle, and the is so you have your shape tool there. You have your general. You make your shape, the circle. You come into text, and that's where you would type in the letter that you needed. So that's the other way to do it inside. So that would be connecting the two at the same time. I like to do it the other way because you have more control of it. So if I wanted to move the font around inside that circle or the square or something like that. Any other questions about that? About the template editor?
Nothing's come up.
Okay. So fail-proofing your camera ratio was the next thing I was going to bring up on your live view, because that's a big question I see a lot too. That is here in screens. Let's say I'm just going to create a new screen. So this will just be DR training. When you click on live view down here, add live view, there is not a button in here at all whatsoever that says, well, I wanted this to be 324316.9. Making it 1:1 is extremely easy to do because it's just a square. So you would just make the width and the height in the position and size be exactly the same in there. So to fail-proof it, the way that I would do this is I would go into Photoshop. Well, actually, first, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to try to find out what my resolution is for my screen. Because I'm using my Surface Pro over there, I'm going to go back into AnyDesk. I'm going to come to, why isn't that showing? Okay, so what is my screen resolution? You can actually Google what your screen resolution is. So right here, what is my screen resolution.com? So mine is 1440 by 960. Okay, 1440 by 960. Some of the mirrors are 1080 by 1920. Some standard monitors are 1920 by 1080. It just depends on how you have it set up in your display options when you go into settings. Okay, so to fail-proof that, I come into File, then New, and then I'm going to set my width to 1440, and then my height to 19. Oh, what did I say it was?
$960, somebody said.
960. Okay, by 960. Okay, now it does not matter about the resolution at all whatsoever. So this is a fun little trick that I actually learned from Bill last year about setting aspect ratio as a quick way to do it in Photoshop. So if you come over here to the tools, there's a marquee tool right here on the left-hand side. And so that's the little rectangle with the dashes on it. It's a selection tool. Up at the top, it says style. If you change that to fixed ratio, and you know that you're going to be using 3:2 ratio, so we'll just change that to 3:2. 3:2. You can draw anywhere on here where you think you're going to have your live view set up. Okay? So, and you can see the numbers that are being pushed down here too if you're holding on. So you have 800 by 553 that's in here. So you can either write those down and get that into Darkroom using position and size, or let's say I want to have that amount as my live view. Or you can come in here and do the paint bucket tool, or I use Control backspace to fill the color. And then I'm gonna hit File, Save As, and then go to my desktop, and I'm just gonna call this, let's see, JPEG, and I'm just gonna call this Live View. Okay, so now I'm gonna send it over to, I'm on my office computer, I'm gonna send this over to my Surface where I have my Darkroom set up. So give me just a second and I'll send that over to my email. Okay, so I'm going to attach that in my email, desktop, and then that's going to be, where'd it go? Give me just a second, I'm sorry, it's not coming up. Okay, there it is. Okay. Where's my AnyDesk? Okay, so now I'm going to download that file, the live view, and I'm going to open up Darkroom. I already have my screen set up the way that I want it set up to go forward. Let's see, where's this? Where's this? Okay. Now I'm going to hit Add Artwork. I'm going to browse, and then I'm going to come to my downloads, and I'm going to get the live view right here. Okay, so fail-proof way. So you already have this set as 3:2 ratio. All you have to do is come to Add Live View, hit OK, bring it over the top of that, and just resize it to what it needs to be. And you have yourself a 3:2 ratio live view. You can delete this graphic in the background because now it does not matter. But that is a fail-proof way to make sure that that is a 3:2 ratio, 4:3 ratio, whatnot. So, and that's going to be recorded, guys. So you'll see that again. And I do have that in the PDF. I'll send to Shane to send out as an email as steps for you.
So just to clarify, go back to your Photoshop if you would.
Okay. Okay.
So what you did here is you created a canvas in Photoshop that is the same size as what your screen is going to be in Darkroom Booth for that particular photo booth rental, given the computer that you're using to run your booth, which in your case is a Surface Pro, correct?
Right.
So that's the white part here is the live view, the size of the live view for your.
So the live view is going to be your artwork.
I'm sorry, not live view, the size of your screen. The
Right.
white part is the size of your screen.
Right.
And so you created a live view on here in a 3:2 ratio that matches the size or the amount of the space that you would like the live view to take up on your screen when you finish your screen design in Darkroom Booth, right? So then you can just transfer that over like you did into Darkroom Booth and then create that exact size live view. And then once you create it, as you did in Darkroom, you can move it around, position it differently on the screen and then add your other elements to that. Is that all accurate?
Yes, it's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that it just, for me, it's a fail-proof way to make sure that it's exactly the same by using the marquee tool, using the fixed ratio section in there. And I'm very grateful to Bill for showing me that that tool, because I didn't even know that was in existence in Photoshop.
Right, me either. So that's my one thing or at least one thing that I learned new today. And I like that trick as well, because I spend a lot of time on my calculator, trying to figure out the numbers to punch in to make it the size that I want it to be in Darkroom Booth. So that's an easier trick.
Right. So, and the same thing goes for if you're trying to do the cutouts on, let's say on a 2x6, if you want to make it to where, we have the marquee tool, we have the fixed ratios there. If you want to make your certain spots, you can come in here and cut these by just making the selection and then just cutting it out as you want. And then you're set to be 3:2 or 4:3 or 16:9 or whatever it may be.
I like that too.
Right. So it's really simple to do that. I made sure that all of my templates were correct for my math on calculators as well from years past. So
yeah, I have a size that I use all the time for mine, but I like this as well.
525 by 320, correct?
I use 555 by 370.
That works.
So
any questions about Photoshop? This is your opportunity to ask me anything, anything in Darkroom templates. Feel free to unmute and ask.
Deidre has a question, and I'm not entirely sure what it is, so I'm going to ask Deidre if she will unmute herself and ask you the question that she would like to know about changing orientation, because I'm not exactly sure which orientation she is wanting to know how to change. So Deidre, if you're still there and paying attention.
Hi.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I guess my question, I kind of don't know how to ask it myself, but what I was looking at, you said was it 3 different orientations that you could choose from?
Yeah, so so you have your portrait, your landscape, and then you have your universal orientation.
And I was trying to see how, I guess, do you change those in Darkroom? Because my pictures are kind of, I would like for the entire photo to be inside of the frame, but they do kind of get cut off. But I think mine is on landscape. And is that in in Darkroom where you change that? Does that make sense?
Well, it's a two-parter. So if you have a DSLR camera, like what I have in my hand right now, you have to make sure that the camera is mounted in your booth as a landscape orientation.
Correct.
And then it's going to match over here as your photo spot.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're wanting to have your DSLR camera and have it in portrait mode, then you got to get into your booth and put this guy inside.
Okay.
However, you can make it to where, let's say that you're shooting one shot, a one shot 4x6, and you have it in landscape mode. I'm going to, y'all can still see my Photoshop screen here, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just say this is, I'm just pulling, just to give an example of what's going on. Let's just say this is your give me a second here. Let's say this is your spot here, and you're shooting your camera in landscape mode. I'm going to change the color back here so you can understand what's going on. But you'll have to set up your photo spot, and you can do the same thing in Darkroom, but you'll have to make it to where it's actually cutting off some of the sides there. So you're going to have, you'll just have some of the photo underneath the artwork.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so that's really, if you don't have two photos that are side by side or stacked on top of each other, this is a great way to fix that. I had a job with CMYK where I had to do that same exact thing because my booth doesn't have the option to do the two different orientations at all. So I had to do it exactly like that. And that's to make sure that you're keeping your photo from being stretched or shrunk in.
Okay.
Okay. Did that answer it?
It did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
So Sarah wants you to go back a step here or two. You were showing how to do the cutouts of the photo nodes.
Okay.
Could you just run through that one more time real quick?
So we have our canvas already set up, and do you want to, well, I guess we need to do this in Photoshop. So we're in Photoshop, and we come over to the side here where there's that marquee tool. So the rectangular marquee tool. We select that, and then we come up to the style, and then fixed ratio. We want to make sure that is set for whatever your camera is set at. So DSLR camera is 3.2, your point and shoots are 4.3. When it's a webcam, it doesn't matter, okay? So, but let's say it's a DSLR camera because that's what most photo booths are. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to click somewhere, and I'm going to drag out on the screen here, and I can do one or two things. Actually, I'm going to do one thing. I'm just going to make it easy. So I'm just going to simply hit that delete key on the keyboard. And I did one thing that Jason's probably going to hit me here for, and that's not unlock the background. But you got to make sure you got to unlock that background, and then you hit the delete key there. And that's how you get your cutouts. On a third party, if they know what they're doing, they're going to already have that set up for you as a base file, and some of them are going to have what they call a clipping mask in there. So let's say this is we're now at the point where we have another, let's see, another color in there. You can come in here and do a right click and go to create clipping mask, and that'll actually allow for anything that's above it that's a solid to be cut out once it hits that base file down at the bottom. So you already have everything cut out, and you won't lose any graphics anymore. So that's clipping mask. Jason, I didn't hit the unlock button at the bottom. You're a graphic designer too. So, yep. Any other questions?
All right, so pull up your Darkroom booth again, please. There's one thing that you said earlier that I just want to emphasize a little bit, I guess, for the benefit of people, and that's on the right-hand side of the editor. You know, when you have multiple items there, you know, whatever is at the top is going to be behind whatever is beneath that in the list.
Yeah, so in Photoshop.
Because I've seen a number of people put questions they're designing their screen, and they put a button on their screen, and then they go to start their booth and they can't find the button that they put on their screen. And I know there have been times where it's because the button has been behind behind something, and it's just hidden something, it's being hidden by something, and that's why they can't find it. So it's important to know kind of that order of items on the right-hand side when you're designing, in that anything that's at the top of the list is going to be furthest back in the layers of your design. Right. So you want to make sure that something that you want to be seen is not higher up on the list, behind, or being hidden by something that's, lower on the list.
So if you're looking at it, background.jpg is going to be at the very top of your list. Then you'll have your photo spots. This is if it's coming from a third party, okay? So background.jpg, then you'll have your 3 spots, and then you'll have your overlay.png on it. So so you're going from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
To the top.
Yep.
So,
I just wanted to make that point because I know I've seen numerous times where people have had questions about that, and it's really just because of the layering of the artwork or the elements that they've added to their screen or even to their photo strip, and just the order of those, in that list on the right-hand side. So,
right. And you can see here, like I said, I don't use a background.jpg. I use an overlay.png because it's just easier to do it that way. That's my own personal preference. And plus the softwares are going to say that there's already a white JPEG back there, or it's going to call it null, N-U-L-L. So it's already going to be there. So the top here for me is photo 1, 2, and 3. And then that's where I start going into the, so on this particular layout here, this is something that I created for a customer in Darkroom to be editable. So it's the overlay.png first. Then we started putting our text all over the top of it. So you want to make sure your text is all the way at the bottom of the template items, because that's what you want people to see.
Yeah.
Unless it's part of the art in the back.
Yep. Does anybody have any other questions for Clay?
And I could do a whole series on graphics on how to do things. Photoshop and Illustrator and After Effects and everything is just a monster of a learning thing. I'm Adobe certified, an Adobe certified educator in Photoshop. And we take, man, I've been doing lessons for 20 years on things. I'm still learning how to do things.
Yeah.
So there's a huge list of things that we can do. Like for instance, Sarah wanted to learn how to do glitter text. That's all has to be done in Photoshop or something similar with the way that I just showed you about how to use clipping mask. But you would use text, and then you'd have a glitter image, and then use the clipping mask over it.
Yep. So Angela asked, use AnyDesk on each computer to create events on the booth computer?
I barely ever touch this Surface Pro, ever. I always go through AnyDesk or TeamViewer to be able to create the events. The other reason why I do that, though, is because I'm a Mac guy. I use Macs.
Me too.
So I have to do that. Now, there is a way that you can save the XBDR if you're using a PC. So you can use the trial version of Darkroom, save the XBDR through your screen, and it'll save the whole entire event information. Save that to your thumb drive, and then take it to your other machine and drop it in. Or you can email it, then AnyDesk in, and then put it in. Terrence, that's a good one too. I just like using AnyDesk and Dropbox. That's just my personal thing.
All right. Well, given that we're a little bit over time, which is no big deal, but and there doesn't really seem to be any questions, just a couple things to wrap up with. Some of you may have seen the post about the issue that I was having with the storage space for the recordings. That's been taken care of. I'm in the process of putting all of the recordings of all of these Zoom session trainings onto a YouTube channel. I have started that process, and as I'm moving them to the YouTube channel, I am deleting them from Zoom in order to, I'm downloading them first and saving them, but then deleting them from Zoom in order to free up the space we need moving forward. So in the very short term, mainly through tomorrow probably, there may be some of the initial Zoom trainings that may not be available through the links that have been previously provided on the Darkroom Booth User Network Facebook page. I will get that addressed as quickly as possible with new links to the YouTube channel so that you can find all of the training videos in one place. We'll continue to do that moving forward. All of the subsequent recordings will be housed on the YouTube channel just to make things easier and minimize cost. Thank you to everybody who graciously volunteered to help support the cost of increasing my Zoom storage space if that was the only option available. Luckily, it's not. Thank you to Clay for taking the time to prepare and present today on this topic. It's always great to hear from different voices and different people. Jason mentioned it in the chat bar that, you know, with Photoshop, there's multiple ways to do things. With Darkroom Booth, there's multiple ways to do things. I think it's great to see the ways that different people do things because it can spark something in you that you may not have known or an easier way to do something. So it's great to have these and to have different people doing them. And if you haven't seen the post already, we've got 3 more trainings lined up. The next one will be next Wednesday again. We'll go back to Wednesdays. It'll be on green screens. Then the next one after that, which will be on the 14th of October, will be on Darkroom Booth for iPad. And then on the 21st, we will have one on slideshow and different things that you can do with slideshow to impress your clients. So we're gonna keep doing these as long as there's continued interest. Thank you all for joining the training today and for your continued interest in doing these. I'm very selfish in the fact that everybody's still interested in them because every time we do one, I learn something new. And that was kind of, you know, part of the reason for doing it in the first place. So thank you for helping me learn more about how to use Darkroom software to make my life easier and to further impress my clients with the things that we can do with it. So thanks again. Have a great day, everybody, and look forward to seeing you at future trainings.
Thank you.
Have a great day.